Probably the accomplishment I'm most proud of in the year or so that I've been there is just driving some good traffic to our social media channels and doing it, even though we are a large organization. Until I was hired, St. Rita's had not done any social media because the thought was, rather than do it and not be able to give it full attention, we're going to wait till we have someone on board to do it. So we did not have a Facebook page, Twitter, or anything else until the day I started. And I actually started our page a week ahead of time but didn't publish it so that I was able to walk in on my first day, flip a switch, and turn it on. So I'll kind of go through this, and then when we're done, I think we'll probably have time to take some questions. I can show you some more about our page, or maybe Hootsuite, which is one of the things I'll talk about a little bit today. But bottom line, most places, there was a recent study in healthcare. The average healthcare organization, hospital, has one person devoted part-time to social media. And in most businesses, it's a similar situation where either there are other things that vie for your time, or you're a small staff. So, and this is a new to me, this presentation format. So I liked this graphic, so I made my message fit the graphic a little bit. This is what we want. We want to get social media. We want our success. We want our numbers up. But a lot of us were facing limited time, staff, and money. So, like the physics trick you learn in school, it all depends on this point as to how much you can lift with what you have here. So tools and planning have been the things that I've been able to use to leverage my time and energy and resources to do some good things. And I'm going to go through the way I learned social media. Honestly, about 3 years before I was hired at St. Rita's, I decided that maybe the newspaper business was changing enough that I wanted to change careers. So I started following people. I found out, I mentioned this later, but I follow people on Twitter, and I found that in a lot of the social media experts talk shop on Twitter. So it was a great place to read and learn, and they would share images like this. And basically my presentation is that I've stolen 3 or 4 images from other people, and I'm going to tell you what I've learned from them. So this was from a combination of a marketing social media company called Big Thunk and a design company whose name I can't remember at the moment, but talks about the 4 basic steps of social media. And some of this you may have covered before. And again, this is just how I learned it, taught myself. But you want to define your goals and your metrics, how you're going to measure it, decide what you're going to do, and then do it. So to get started, I kind of studied this a lot when I started and looked at, fame. These are basically kind of either personality types or channel types of how you want your social media channels to be perceived. And fame, probably the best example of that is like George Takei. If any of you follow him, he's not really doing much of anything noteworthy now, but he's on the head of trends and things like that on Facebook and Twitter. So that's an example of that. Brand, Coca-Cola, Tide, any number of brands who use social media to connect with their customers. Allure is more if you're maybe like a car dealer or something like that, where you're trying to drive people in and connect with them and get them to buy something. And then service, if what you do is more about answering questions, providing information, you can that's a channel you can approach. When I started, I thought St. Rita's, we would go with the brand approach. The tricky part was, unlike Coke, where you're going to walk in to a store and buy a Coke, you don't wake up one day and go, hey, I think I'm going to go to St. Rita's and get a heart transplant. It doesn't quite work that way. So I kind of blended a little bit with the fame and maybe even a little bit with service. What I felt was I want to provide information that connects people with us and shows we're human and shows that we're more than just a building in the middle of the city. So this was the first step that I looked at. Once you decide which way you're going to go, you want to look at how you're going to measure that success. And it's going to depend a little bit on what you're trying to do. For me, it was more that brand of trying to measure awareness by interactions, click-throughs, likes, views, depending on the channel. And it was slow starting up, but it eventually built that up. By the way, if I go through this too fast, I didn't have time to print it out, but at the end I'll have a link. You can go online and view this presentation again if you want. So that's a quick look at that. It's going to, obviously, depending on what you're trying to do, the way you measure is going to be a little bit different. If your goal is to drive people in and sell them something, then obviously your measurement's going to include how much more you're selling. And then, service, if you're building a following of people who share and interact with you, that's part of that. But again, I focus more on brand with a little bit of the fame side thrown in. And I'll get into a little bit later the tricks of learning how to get engagement and get people involved. Just a little more detail on the 4 types. The thing that this may be changing, but the thing I felt and still feel to an extent in this area, if you're trying to promote a brand, Facebook is still probably the big dog. But I have felt for a couple of years, I think Facebook's best days are probably behind it. I don't think it's going to go away, but I think the best example I had heard, it's going to be like Yahoo. Yahoo's still there. It's not a driver in the market per se, but people still use it. I still have a Yahoo email because I'm too lazy to change to something else. So I think Facebook for a while, and trends tend to run slower here, so I think that's still the big dog, but you don't want to ignore the other channels. You don't want to be a Johnny-come-lately. Like I was telling someone who uses LinkedIn who's fearful that they may lose their job, they're like, well, if I lose my job, I'm going to have to get on LinkedIn and start connecting with people. And I told them, as I've told lots of people with social media, it's too late then, because then you're a guy looking for a job. Then you're not just someone with skills and talent sharing information. So then this is a bottom line, all this is great talk. I had a motto when I started at St. Rita's to try and to focus on success. It was get stuff done, only it wasn't stuff, but I would tell myself that every morning. I had a big sign on my desk that said, get stuff done. So all of this is great, but at some point you just got to do it. And as I've always said, you can't break the web. You can't break Facebook. So you go out, you try stuff, you get prepared, you have a schedule, a plan ahead of time, and then you start doing it. This is the biggest thing, like you were talking about the blogs that you have and the numbers may not be great right off the bat. You have to give it time because you're developing relationships, you're developing a reputation. My wife is a forensic scientist. She has a page, and at first she was trying to compare it to my numbers at St. Rita's, which was, again, your numbers, you have to look at it realistically based on similar pages, similar efforts. But you got to give it time because it's going to, she came to me one morning and she's like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I had 200 people that viewed and liked this thing that I did. And I was like, well, yeah, it's going to build over time. I've had a good weird thing with St. Rita's. We're gaining about 100 likes a week for the last 3 weeks. I don't know why. But again, it's just we've built up. I think some of it is we're starting to integrate the messages more. But, it's nice to look every week and see you've gained 100 likes. Last part of that, learn from your mistakes. You can't break the internet. You can't break social media. Something works, do it again. Something doesn't work, don't do it. It's about that simple. And these images I show should get simpler as we go forward. This is a great guide from, I think it's topnonprofits.com. If you go there, you can pull up this image as well, but it's some tips for, it's for nonprofits. I guess technically I work for a nonprofit, but it's meant for places that are small. You've got a small staff, maybe one person who has to do 20 different things. So quick tips here, understand your audience. And you may have mentioned this earlier about creating personas. I don't put a lot of time into that, but in my head, I've created certain personas like, Nancy Nurse, Patty Patient, Dave Doctor, and Joe Public, and as I craft my messages, I'm trying to think, who am I trying to reach with this? And the one that I don't ever have a name for, but probably my biggest audience is moms and wives who handle most of the social media or most of the healthcare decisions in a family. So that's part of my focus. They give some good tips here. These three, I think, are the key to why it's social media. It's not all about you. If all you post is about, hey, look at us, look what we're doing, people are going to tune you out. Best example of this happened to me. I was going to a Reds game. We're walking down, the new Reds stadium. There's all the bars and stuff. Walking along, kind of visualize this. You're walking along to the game. You look up ahead and you see a bar. You see people in the bar. They're drinking, they're chatting, they're having fun. And you're thinking, I wonder what they're doing. There might be something interesting there. That looks like fun. So your interest goes there. If one of those people said, hey, how you doing? You'd probably stop and interact with them. Look up the road a little more. There's a ticket scalper. If you need tickets, then you might be interested. Other than that, you're going to tune them out. A little farther down the road, there's a guy with a sign that says, I need money. If you're me and you're honest with yourself, you're going to tune them out. So, that's what social media is. You don't want to be the one who's always saying, please help me. Because people are going to, as soon as people see it's from you, they're going to, oh, they're asking for help again. Do unto others. Have a conversation, share. I do a lot of, when I see an event in the community like this event and others, I'll share it on St. Rita's page or on our different feeds, and I'll get it out there. Because, the best thing, part of what social media is, if people know that you're helping them out, creates goodwill, they're going to help you out. It makes you, just a better member of the community. So, those 3 points were big for me getting started. And then planning, got to be realistic about the time you have. It's a good idea to plan monthly. I probably, as Jessica was saying, don't schedule posts more than, maybe a couple weeks out, and keep an eye on it. Because as I think you were saying about, things can happen, and you can't undo perception. Quick story from my college newspaper days. We used to give away movie tickets. And we used to just say, come into the office and get tickets. So one night, we got some movie tickets, and someone comes to the managing editor and says, we need to put an ad in for the movie tickets. What should we do? He goes, we always say just come in and get tickets. We should make people do something for tickets. Well, what do we make them do? He goes, I don't know. Make them jump up and down and shout ooga booga. I don't care. Just make them do something. So that's what the ad said. No one knew until after the fact. This was the first African-American themed movie we had given tickets away to. No amount of explaining could undo that. Once it's said and done. So that's why you need to watch, as events change, as you become aware of different facts, don't hesitate to go back and change your message. I'd love to have the opportunity to go back and change that ad after the fact. It was an innocent mistake, but it is still talked about at the University of Cincinnati as an intentional slight. So again, simple point, be ready to change, be aware of what's going on around you. Some best practices, I agree with some of this, I don't agree with all of it. You want to think headline, you want to try and attract people in. Posting every other day, I never agreed with that. I post about 4 times a day, sometimes up to 8, depending on the day, what's going on. But so I'm not sure where they got that one. But the other parts, pictures are great. Pictures are what tend to drive more traffic, and tell good stories. Humanize who you are. Connect with people. I mean, it is social media. So, let's see. And on Twitter, some simple points. It's not Facebook. I use Hootsuite primarily, but what I do is I schedule it all together, and then I go back in and I edit slightly for the different channels so that you're not, someone who uses Facebook, I mean, the hashtag thing is changing, but someone who uses Facebook doesn't want to see at retweet and all that. To them, what may be just gibberish. So you want to customize your message to the channel you're using. A couple key points here. I have found, I read this from a guy named Jay Bear once, that a lot of people won't post on the weekend because no one's there. I post on the weekend because a lot of people don't post on the weekend. There's less clutter. There's less other stuff out there. And people have their phones. People are checking, when they're at their kid's soccer game and all the kids are playing bunch around the ball and nothing's happening, they're pulling out their phone, they're checking. Keep it short and sweet, because if you tweet something cool and I retweet it, it adds my name. Someone else retweets it, it adds their name. And where does Twitter cut? Cuts from the end. Which I can't remember if I left this in or not. Another part of that I learned, that I always try to do, most people, they do a tweet, at the very end, they put the link. Where does Twitter cut? It cuts from the end. It's better to try and blend your link in somewhere before the halfway point or at the halfway point, so that if something gets cut, you don't lose your link. Oh, and I did leave that there. So that's was based off of research from Dan Zarella, who's another person I followed on Twitter who helped me learn a lot about how to do things the right way. And again, if you want to see this graphic, if you go to topnonprofits.com, you can download that, and they also have other advice. So let's see, yeah. So that's these are all good tools. Again, the presentation link will be at the end if you want to look at this again. But my recommendation: Dan Zarella, J Baer, Baer. Follow those guys on Twitter. They're going to retweet other experts, and then you can follow them. And it's cool. I mean, Jay Baer's, I believe, in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. When I was getting started, I was having Twitter conversations with him. Here I am trying to learn the business, and a guy who's doing well in the business is available to me through Twitter to have a conversation. And this is an even shorter, this is from Jay Baer. This is a really simple analogy of how to get good content for your social media channels. Gather stories about the human things going on in your organization. Tell the stories. The stories will drive more people to connect with you, creating more stories, and then you tell their stories. Now, probably the biggest mentor I've had in my social media learning is a fake character called Fake Grimlock, who is on Twitter. He's not on Facebook for political reasons of what he believes social media is, and primarily because you can't be anonymous on Facebook. And he's some sort of venture capitalist. He intentionally keeps himself anonymous because he believes, and there's some value to this, when you hear something, in our culture right now especially, you judge it by who's saying it. So by being anonymous, he's able to say, blatant, obvious stuff, and you can't say, well, obviously he's got a bias. So his gimmick is that there's apparently a real robot dinosaur called Grimlock, and he is the fake Grimlock. Mm-hmm. So he types in all caps because he has robot dinosaur hands, and he speaks in broken English because he's a robot dinosaur. But he came up with a concept that I really like called I always get it wrong, but minimally viable personality. If you're starting out a channel or a social media presence, you want to have I believe that the minimally viable personality is a big key. And it's basically 3 questions. In Fake Grimlock speak, how you change customers' life. What are you doing that helps the customer, that makes their different? What are you giving them that no one else is giving you? What do you stand for, and who or what do you hate? For St. Rita's, and the answer changes somewhat over time, but basically, we change customers' lives by making them healthier and giving them better quality of life. What do we stand for? Quality care and respect for individuals. Who or what do we hate? We hate bad information. We hate people who don't respect others. And we hate people who, there's a third one that I've lost, but we hate them too, whoever they are. And this link here, again, this will be in the presentation later, but there's a longer blog post that Fake Grimlock made about the idea. And it's odd that Fake Grimlock can't type in lowercase, but he draws really great illustrations. So I'm not sure how that works. But so to summarize then, how did I do it for St. Rita's? Here's our Facebook page. As of yesterday, we had 1,217 likes. Today, we have 1,225. I'd like to say it's all because of what I'm doing. I have no idea why our numbers are growing so well now, but I think it's the framework that we build up of what we have out there. And I try to not just tell people what we're doing, but to offer relevant information The best compliments I've gotten is people who've said to my bosses that our page is full of stuff that that they find useful. It's not just about us. So let's see if and here's our Twitter feed. Now, obviously, our primary focus: Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for video. We're always looking out. We have a Google Plus page. I'll be honest, I just throw the stuff that's in Hootsuite to Google Plus because it's there. I'm not paying as much attention as I should, but I'm there. And then I need to get on Instagram because everything I'm reading says that among younger audiences, Instagram is going to be the new Facebook. So, again, not to be bashing our area, but if it's true to form, we've got a little bit of time because things tend to happen slower. But all that's just changing too with the ways that people communicate. So let's see. This is Hootsuite. If we have time, I'll show you later some of how that works. But I use it for, I have a St. Rita's Twitter feed, which is my primary input for information, because I don't have time right now. I'd love to write all our content on our own. Don't have time to do that, and I want to keep engaging. I don't want an empty page. I don't want empty channels of information. So I use a St. Rita's Twitter feed that follows places like Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, our other Mercy Health, American Heart Association, CDC, also like CBS Health, CNN Health, NPR Health, all those things. And when I don't have anything good to say on my own, but I want to keep some information out there that my followers will find useful, I scan through there, I find something that's useful, I click here to retweet it. It gives me a window up here. I can I should have made this interactive, I'll show you later, but you can pull down and choose the channels you want it to go to: Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn. And so I'll choose that, and then you schedule when you want it to show up. And it's a quick and easy way to have some relevant content. And at Hootsuite, if you're small, it doesn't cost a lot. So.
If you want to log in there, you can too, but Peter later.
Okay, I think I'm going to whip through the last few slides, and then I'll do that. So. But this has been a great, I don't remember the limits, but I think it's like up to 5 streams and 1 user is free on Hootsuite. I'm paying $6 a month, which still isn't that bad. But it's a great tool to get, to curate information. A quick look at some of the things that are really popular for us. I feel as part of that minimally viable personality that, we're trying to help keep people healthy, which means keeping them safe. When there's weather issues, I try and share what's going on. So here was a recent tweet that we did when the derecho was threatening, based on my own experience with the last derecho. Make sure your cell phone's charged, make sure you got gas in your car, so that if, like it happened in Van Wert, you can't get gas and you don't have power, you've got a backup. And if you can see down there, about 900, almost 1,000 people saw that post. So those are people who are seeing that St. Rita's is there. St. Rita's cares about more than just selling them a heart transplant. Another recent popular page, and I cut it too tight to get the number of people who've seen this, but we did our 1,000th robotic surgery last week, and this woman was the recipient of it, and they brought her flowers. That and another picture from the series have been shared by her family and others, and have gained a lot of like. And again, it shows that we're not just a building in the middle of town. We're real people. We care about our patients. We try to connect with them. So that's been popular. And then the third thing that's popular, this is one of the occasions where we're selling a service of ours, but we're also selling it something that is useful. If you've got to come in for an outpatient test, here's a number you can call, so you're not sitting at that reception desk waiting for them to fill out forms. They can start the process and be waiting for you. So it's a promotion of us, but it's also, here's something we do that's helpful for you. A way to look at it that I've always liked, in newspapers, the idea was always the 80-20 rule. You want about 80% news and 20% ads, so that you're not, if it's all ads, people aren't going to pay attention. It's kind of the same idea with social media, at least the way I approach it. 80% useful information, 20% let me sell you something. And then here are the resources that I used in gathering this information. And that bottom piece is my best advice. Get on Twitter. Even if it's just a personal Twitter account, not for your business. Follow Jay Baer, follow Dan Zarella. Get those guys' information, connect with them and the other people that they quote. I learned more through that. It was funny, when I interviewed at St. Rita's, I knew that the corporate guy from Cincinnati for social media was going to be there. So I'd been active in Twitter for a few years, basically working towards this point. I knew two people who knew the guy who was going to interview me, and I knew they were going to be at an event with him the day before the interview. So I asked them both to go up and say, hey, say hi to him. After I was hired, he said that was one of the things that impressed me, is that I was known in social media circles because these two people came up and said, hey, I hear you're interviewing J.D. Brewer. And I never told him, I don't think I still told him that was all because I told him to do it, but it works. It makes connections, it helps out. Here's about me. I've got some cards up here if you'd like. I'm on Twitter, J.D. Brewer. There's my email. The presentation, that's a little bit easier to remember than the 200-character link that was there, but that's where the presentation is, bit.ly 1377 PJ3. And with that, if you have questions, I'll do that. If you'd like, I can go on Hootsuite and kind of show you a little bit of how I use that. Any questions at this point?
Do you find that you have making your own pictures and stuff for posting versus trying to find something online?
I've done both. It's I use occasionally a service iStock Photo. There's a bunch of stock photo sites you can use. I use it frugally. When I buy something, I'll try and buy a picture that has multiple uses. Like I have a picture of kids swimming in a pond. I can use it for swimming safety, I can use it for kids' physical activity, I can use it for sun protection, and a bunch of other things. And it's easier than going out and trying to find 3 kids playing in the sun. But, if it's a picture of nurses standing by a bed, I got a building full of that, I can go take that pretty easy. So you try and, decide what's worth your time. Is it easier to pay, and on iStock Photo you can get some pictures as cheap as $4 or something, so.
I spend a lot of my time on Facebook, and so I take good information I get from other counselors and stuff that they post on there, and I just kind of repost it on mine.
Yeah.
That way I get a photograph, and they offer good advice that I would be talking about anyway.
Right.
So for me, it was the simplest way to stand there and get some color
Yeah.
and stuff on my pages.
And it also shows that if you're sharing other people's information, it shows it's not all about you. That your concern is to get information to your followers and not just about you. So that's real quick. I will see. I'm probably gonna hurt myself on this chair. See. I just realized I don't know if I can remember my Hootsuite password when I'm not in. It's all preset before.
Yeah.
By the way, while he's logging in, if you guys need another tool to make photos, like the photo collages, some that I showed you, like on some of the HDF pages, you can use PicMonkey, PICMONKEY, and you can make free collages there. And there's also a site that you can use to make free infographics. It's info.am, I think. I have to look it up. It's
info.gram, I think, or info.
info.am, I believe it is. I'll have to look on that computer. You can make free infographics too, because infographics are really popular.
Yeah, and that's, all those things are out there. There's great resources. I've forgotten some of them because I've kind of fallen into a routine now of what I do seems to work. But so here's my St. Rita's Twitter feed on Hootsuite. One nice thing, what I do, I open Hootsuite in 2 different browsers. In one browser, I just have the schedule that shows, here's what I've got scheduled to post over the next few days. And I went ahead yesterday, I'm going to have a busy day today, so I scheduled everything out through tomorrow afternoon. I can change it if I need to, but I've got it, I'm going to have information there. The other flip side that I didn't mention is monitoring. There's a limited amount of time scheduling, but you also need to make sure you're monitoring. And that's where I use, this is the first thing I look at, last thing I look at every day. If I'm out of the office for a while, I double check it. There's managers and things that you can find that will let you track whether someone's commenting on your page. So that's key as well, is to be able to interact. Don't do what a certain utility company did for a very short time until they realized what a bad idea it was. Every Friday at 4:30 or 5, they would say, we're not going to be watching our page until Monday morning at 9. So then everybody who wanted to get a message up for the weekend, knowing that no one would be paying attention to it, would go in and say, you guys suck. And then it would sit there for the whole weekend because they just told them, you always want to be monitoring, even if if you have to set a timer every 2 hours and go sit down somewhere and look at it. Because people will test you. People have tested us by posting stuff and thinking that it'll sit there and we won't respond to it.
Just in regards to that, being that you work in the area you deal, how do you handle negative posts? Do you just delete them? Do you address them?
Never delete them.
Yeah, that's.
Never delete them.
Do you
We
address
usually
the person, or how do you try to handle it?
the stock answer, because we're dealing with HIPAA and everything, is along the lines of, we're sorry you had a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say we're sorry we screwed up, because I don't know that yet. We're sorry you had a bad experience. We'd like to help you resolve this. This probably isn't the best place to discuss it. Here's an email and a phone number, and if they continue, then we'll try and address it, without being confrontational. Just say, hey, yeah, I can understand how that would upset you. That's not our goal. Here's our focus. But the fact that you acknowledge it and not just delete it shows that you're responsive. All right, so real quick, what I do with, if I can get this back to where, here's my stream of St. Rita's. So here's I have no idea what this even means, but I assume it has something to do with running. Jeremiah probably knows
Probably.
about buying special shoes because your foot pronates as you run, whatever that means. So, let's see. Well, here's an interesting one. New Orleans Saints player Steve Gleason, who has the ALS. Here's a story about him, which is something that I might be able to use to be probably a good weekend story to read. So I'll go in here, I'll choose it. I've got 52 characters left, so I got plenty of room. And I'll go in here, and it's already defaulting to our Twitter feed. So then I'll go here, and I'll pick St. Rita's Medical Center's Facebook page. And then I'll pick, I can't use this computer. Our Google Plus page, and I'll schedule it for, say, Saturday at 10:50 is a good time, and I'll hit schedule, and then a little bit later I'll go in and edit it for the different channels. But that's boom, boom. I've created a story that my readers will care about. Didn't cost me anything, didn't take a whole lot of time, and it shows that I'm interested in sharing information with them. All right.
Here, I'll put it in.
So what other questions or what other things can I show you? Or
Type it in.
Now, what was the tool there that you used? Is that Facebook?
That's
the
Hootsuite.
Hootsuite, HOOTSUITE.
Hootsuite, okay.
Yep, and that link is on the website too if you.
It's a great, for smaller organizations, you can get what you need out of it. It doesn't cost anything, and if you have to expand, it's like I said, $6 a month isn't an awful amount to pay. But there are services out there. It depends on what you're doing. You definitely want to try and stay local. We had a company out of Dallas that wanted to sell us the generation of local stories, and not a bad idea, but for the price, this. Rather than have someone in Dallas creating this based off of keywords, was able to use this. If you've got a local company, like say Now Marketing, that is connected to the community, that might make more sense. But to me, especially on our budget, to pay someone in another state to write content when I can go here, and I think in some places they call it a curation model. You're curating information for your followers. But I go through here, I find stuff. And I'm trying to think when I do that, like for the weekend, I try and get stuff that's a little more esoteric, a little more thoughtful. First thing in the morning, I try and have something that's advice on, something that'll help you through your day, help you raise your kids or whatever. And then I mix in there, when we have something to promote, I try and look at it in terms of, is this helpful, like that the one about calling ahead. That's a morning post because, especially if you're driving into St. Rita's that day and you see that, or you're up early because you're worried about your test that's coming up. So, but yeah, Hootsuite's been a great tool that I've used a lot. It does, as Jessica said, it dings you in the edge ranking on Facebook, but it's a trade-off. If I have time, I'll schedule it through Facebook. But this just, as we're all juggling time, I'm willing to take that edge rank ding if it helps me to just keep some information out there. Anything else?
And your pages are growing too, so and you're monitoring your success, so that's always the best telltale whether your strategy is working or not,
Yeah.
If people are following you or opting out.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's all I've got. Unless there's more. Yeah.
You had 1,217 likes on your website there.
Mhm.
So when you post something, I'm getting into the difference between being a friend and being a like.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you post something on that website, just your thoughts or whatever term they give to it or whatever, that goes to your 1,217 likes and their friends, or where does that go?
It's funny. I've never gotten. I've researched it. I've never gotten a solid, straight answer from looking at Facebook. But basically, part of it is edge rank. Everyone doesn't see everything you post. They use algorithms to figure out which people are most likely to care about it, and then it cuts. And part of Facebook's business model now is you can pay them a little more money to get to more people. So it's not a perfect system, but the trick of it is your edge ranking goes up the more people interact with it. So that's where you can counteract that some by making sure that what you post is going to draw people's interest and get them to look at it. Because if they look at it and then they like it, then all their friends see it. If they interact with it, then their friends see it. And I get confused because every time I think I understand it, they change part of how Facebook does it. But bottom line is make it interesting. People will interact, more people will see it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Hey, don't forget you owe me a t-shirt.
Oh yeah, it's in here. I got you. I don't yet leave yet, but I was going to tie off to what you were saying, and I think what you were saying too is that Facebook has friend pages and business pages. Always go with the business page.
Yes.
Because there's nothing more annoying than a business trying to add you as a friend, because then it just spams, and Facebook, it's against Facebook's policy. The pages aren't set up that way. You should never do that. And once you get to a certain point, there's been a couple companies actually here locally that's done it. They've reached their tip-off of friends, and then it just your page gets deleted and you have to start all over. So and plus you can measure on fan pages and you cannot measure on friend pages your success, because Facebook has the tool in the back end, and where you're seeing how your success is working so greatly on what you're doing. If you go to the top here, you can invite friends to your page, but then you can also interact and view your insights. And insights is kind of your tool to show how well your page is performing or not performing. And then also, are you reaching out to your demographics? How many likes do you have? How many friends of fans, meaning how many people are interacting? So based on the people that like our page and that are interacting with our page, how many of their friends are seeing the stuff too because they've interacted? Because you have to get that first interaction to get the next trickle of, I guess, the world of mouth to grow. And then it'll tell you what types of posts receive the most interaction. So then if you're always wondering, okay, which content's doing it for me? What is it I'm sharing that's bringing in those great 25 new likes every day, like JD's having, he can go back and see, oh man, these posts were the most interactive. There's also a tool that we use because Facebook is so confusing sometimes in the way that they change it, and that's another training that we have on Friday from our friends at Scoreboard Social. It's a free tool too for up to a couple pages, but what we use, we actually get sent a report to us that measures the engagement only, because all I care about, and like I've said before, is I don't care if I have 1,200 fans and only 10 people are interacting with me, then I'm wasting up all that edge rank, I guess, power, which is that's think of it the same algorithm as Google almost. edge rate power because they're going to consider that my page isn't as effective as somebody that has 10 friends with 10 people, or excuse me, 10 fans with 10 people interacting with it. So we use Scoreboard Social, and it sends us a report that tells us how well we're doing and how well it measures us against our competitors too. We're able to put our competitors on there, and it's all measuring interaction. That's it, like engagement. And I can show you an example of it here. Do you mind if I use HCF as an example again? Okay. Because this is how we monitor all their pages too. And I'll bring it up. While this is loading, I just think it's phenomenal what you've done with St. Rita's too in such a short amount of time, and adapted very well to it. I know I followed it and continue to see the posts, so I think it's a good role model and good thing to have in the community of giving back.
The trickiest argument you'll have, and the trickiest argument I've had, is trying to explain the value of doing something that has no obvious value. I'll do something just because it's silly and it's interactive. One of my first posts that was popular on May the 4th of last year, which any of you that know Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
So I took a picture of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, and I photoshopped it taking off from our helipad, and just said, you know, May the 4th be with you, happy Star Wars Day from St. Rita's. And I got, that was when I had maybe 40, 50 likes, and I had over 1,000 people see it. You know, so it was one of those that it had no obvious purpose other than to be silly, but it showed that, you know, we're not just out there trying to sell you something.
Yeah, so let's back up here. So Scoreboard, what it does is it'll allow you to put in all of your page links, and it's really easy to use. But Scoreboard Social, you'll put in your information, and it'll say how many likes you have, whether you're up or down, average people talking about this, post, how many times you've posted, and this time duration, which this is a week long here. Outreach activity, this measures how much outreach that you've interacted with people interacting with you, and it's been then posted to the news feed based on it. Average brand engagement, this is our number, like I said. We want to know how many people of our fans are actively engaging in our brand, because if it's 10%, then I have a lot of people on there I really don't need, you know, because they're not making a difference to the page itself. And then a average daily interaction score, meaning how many people are interacting daily on these pages. So even though they have 194 likes here, they're receiving average brand daily engagement of people that are seeing and interacting with their posts of 413 that week. So pretty good.
When you talk about interaction, are you talking like where they post comments or something?
Post a comment, like a post, share a post, or what this is measuring, the number here, where the average, the engagement and people talking about this is where people are sharing it too. And if, say, I write a post and you like it, and they're not fans yet, but since they're friends with you and you've interacted, they may have seen or interacted with the page as well, but haven't maybe liked it yet. So that's where you're getting that interaction, more interaction than you have likes, because it's growing from there. It's that word of mouth kind of growth that we talked about. So, I mean, this is actually a new company. I went to Scoreboard Social's a new company, and we're kind of working with them to tell them what we need in a tool, because we use it so much. They'd actually just built it for themselves. I met them in San Diego a couple months ago at the Social Media World Conference that was held in San Diego, which sounds really nice right now to go back to. But met these guys, and they've been tweaking this tool ever since, and they've been great. They're actually building it around people that really need it to monitor brands and competitors. So, I mean, like I said, that training is on Friday. It's free, and they'll show you how it works and give you tips on how to increase your engagement too, if you guys are interested. The link's on our sociallima.com/events link. So, but great presentation, JD. Does anybody else have any more questions for him, or?
I'll hang around for a bit too if you want to ask, you know, one-on-one stuff. One thing I forgot to mention that on the Facebook timing rule, and Jessica, I don't know if your research shows it still be valid. I use a 3-hour window on Facebook that if you post something within 3 hours of a previous post, you're basically cannibalizing the audience for the first post by distracting them with the second one. So I try to, I don't use a hard and fast scheduling rule, but in the back of my mind, I'm always trying to keep a 3-hour window unless it's like a breaking current event type of thing.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my question.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different times, everybody said different things, like photos were gonna get you more interaction, and now they're not. And really, it's all about just like giving back and engaging and creating quality content. Photos, yeah, you do get seen more, but they're actually now starting, because everybody's doing it, it's densening that algorithm. EdRank's smarter than us, so it can determine what, is, if somebody's just trying to kind of just take advantage of the system, I guess. But if you provide value, people are going to interact with it, and it's going to grow. That's all there is to it. Yeah.
I was at a seminar similar to this maybe 6 months ago or something. They were talking about that Facebook, you've got teenagers are all on it, you've got the young people on it, that they are starting to flee from Facebook because mom and dad are seeing what the heck they're posting, and that Twitter is becoming the young person thing. And I mean, are there any other sites that are the young folks are going to, or the old folks are flocking to, or do you see any trends or aware of any trends?
Yeah, there's a larger audience of a younger generation that are starting off because they're newer entering the social media realm. So it's like, what's cool, what's popular. Instagram is really popular for them. They're still not saying that they're not going on Facebook, but they're not hitting it as hard because mom and grandma's on it. It's not so cool anymore, but they are utilizing it in a fashion because there's so many people that are already there, but they're actively spending a lot more of their time on Instagram and, Twitter and tools like that are more instant because they're constantly here on their phones, so. Yep, but the vast majority of 55 to 65-year-old women are what's pushing onto Facebook right now. Because mom and grandma, we're not creating photo albums anymore and printing off the pictures, we're uploading them. And families want to stay connected, they join and to see what we're doing. Yeah. I just actually experienced that when I had a project I needed to do for my daughter, and they had to show pictures from each year, and I'm like, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5. I'm like, where's all my pictures? Shoot, can your teacher go in there and grab them? I didn't have them all printed off. I'm like,
That's like
yeah.
you used to open your wallet and show pictures of your kids. Now.
Yeah. I can't even tell you the last time. Yeah. I wonder what even photos are still in my wallet.
Yeah,
I feel bad when someone
Yeah.
says you have a picture and you don't have your phone with you, or you're like,
Yeah.
oh, no,
I have about 370 on my phone. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, JD. We'll take another quick 2-minute break. We'll get Tiffany set up. If you guys need to use the restroom, grab something to drink.